and welcome everyone to this exclusive webinar for our Edvanza users today. My name is Aanchal R Jaiswal and I head customer success and support with Edvanza. I was reading a global talent trends article from LinkedIn the other day, and the chief economist, Karen Kimbrough, says, this year we are seeing a slower pace of growth as the economy comes back down to earth after meteoric rise last year in one of the fastest recovery we have ever seen. During these uncertain times, what is the best way to stay afloat? Skilling and upskilling will always be the answer. With the advent of AI tools like ChatGPT, we're in the era where life is changing every single second, and the workforce, such as us, need to continue to skill and upskill ourselves. However, how do we do that with the ever-changing world? Well, let's welcome Claire Moscrop, Director of Digital Learning, PhD in e-research and technology enhanced learning from Lancaster University, focused on assessment and feedback. Let's have a conversation with her to unlock some of the answers to some of the most common questions around skilling and upskilling, leveraging microcredentials. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you, Aanchal.
Well, Claire, thank you very much for taking time out to have a conversation with us. Well, let me start with a very, very basic question. We have been hearing the buzzword microcredentials for some time now. What are microcredentials after all?
Well, I think a microcredential in its simplest form, it's a certification of a small piece of learning that allows you to gain new professional skills very quickly. So they can be taken just as standalone bites of learning, or they can be kind of stacked together into larger credentials like a pathway or even to a full degree. So in short, it's a small piece of learning that can develop your skills quickly.
Thank you, Claire. And how do they really differ from traditional credentials like traditional degrees and certifications?
Well, I think in some ways there are similarities to traditional degrees are made up of individual modules, as we know, that effectively stack towards your full degree. Microcredentials are similar as they can also stack towards larger qualifications like degrees and masters. I think the main difference is the flexibility with microcredentials. So firstly, there's the financial flexibility. Obviously, a degree requires a lot of upfront investment, so with ongoing fees due at set times, whereas microcredentials allow you to pay for your study as you go, so you can save and choose to take your next assessment when you're ready. So there's no pressure to pay on certain dates and so on, so you have that financial control. I think there's also an additional element of flexibility with microcredentials in that you're choosing to study when you want and to submit your assessment when you're ready as well. So you can choose the order in which you study certain topics too. So you can tailor your learning for the skills that you actually want, maybe for your current job or for jobs that you maybe want to target next. So this doesn't happen in traditional degree pathways. That's where they differ really. So that additional flexibility can be really beneficial. I think importantly though, it's important to know that some microcredentials can stack into full degrees and masters. So if you want the flexibility of microcredentials that I've just mentioned, but you'd also like to get a master's degree, then the microcredentials route can be an excellent alternative learning option for those who maybe don't have the time or the money to enroll on a more traditional longer qualification.
Thank you, Claire. That was quite clear. And how do microcredentials work in terms of certification, accreditation, and how should our participants today ensure that they're choosing the right microcredentials for themselves?
Well, microcredentials are offered by many different institutions and businesses, from universities through to online platforms such as Edvanza or FutureLearn, for example. So the microcredentials are usually owned and accredited by universities or those kind of partners. So you can gain academic credits or equivalents that can be taken as standalone skills development courses, or even allow you to move on to a full degree, stack them towards a full degree if you wish. So I feel it's important to say that the options should be researched fully, because not all micro-credentials are created equal, in that not all of them are accredited or stackable towards other qualifications. So you should also always ensure that you have that final goal as to where you want to go with your career when you're making the choices, because it's better to choose things that are then stackable towards future goals as well.
Absolutely. I think the goal is the right word to chase and to reflect on in order to get on the right path for choosing the right micro credentials for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Claire. And what are the various ways that we can consume or take micro credentials?
Again, it depends on the course that you choose. There are a number of different ways that you can study micro-credentials. Again, back to the benefits of the flexibility there. Most courses are taught online, which students are able to complete the tasks at their own pace. So at Edvanza, for example, we're 100% online asynchronous, which means there's no live sessions. You do it all in your own time when you're ready. Some courses are taught through scheduled classes in other places. And some have more of a hybrid approach with live classes and online material. So again, it's back to choosing something that suits you and your flexibility. Well,
thank you, Claire. And we have clearly established the fact that flexibility is pretty much a synonym to micro-credentials, and that being one of the key benefits. But then what are some other benefits of earning micro-credentials, and how do they contribute towards someone's career advancement?
I think the benefits of micro-credentials are as varied as the names that have been given to them. So they're often called micro certifications, nano degrees, digital badges, and so on. I think no matter what we call them, they're always valued because they develop those workplace capabilities quickly, and that can enhance your employability and career progression. So a key benefit is that you can immediately start to add those skills to your resume or CV. And you can immediately start to post the news of those certifications or badges in your professional spaces, such as LinkedIn. So your potential employers can then see that you're serious about your continued professional development, and they can immediately see those badges that you're earning. So it's very beneficial from that point of view.
Thank you, Claire. And with the conversation that we have had so far, we clearly also understand that it is extremely important for employees such as us. But do these micro-credentials are also valued by the top employers in the market? What is your say in that?
Yeah, very much. I mean, micro-credentials not only benefit us personally as learners, they also benefit our employers because we're going in with those skills. And every progressive employer these days is recognising the value of micro-credentials and even using them in their own training programs to upskill their own employees. So they're very much valued. And obviously, the more skills we have when we go into a job, the more beneficial it is for our employers anyway.
Thank you. So it's a win-win situation for both the parties, employees and employers. Great. And while you were giving us responses on these questions, Claire, I also wanted to understand that if a learner is straight out of school, can they actually opt for micro-credentials, or is it necessary for them to take the traditional route of taking an undergraduate degree first and then go for micro-credentials? Please throw some light for us on that.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Aanchal. I think it depends on the career that you're interested in. So there are absolutely micro-credentials that anyone at any level can engage in that would be beneficial to their career. But some subject areas do have specific routes into the profession. So, for example, spaces like psychology or law or other such practical professions usually expect you to have a degree as the first stage of development, and the ability to be accredited by their professional bodies, for example, in these spaces will be dependent on you having that degree. However, there are many, many more professions where you can take alternative routes, such as through micro-credentials, areas such as business, management, IT, many, many more spaces. So if you are a school leaver, as you say, without a degree, you can definitely still upskill yourself towards specific professions if you wish, without that pressure of doing a full undergraduate degree immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of my friends who really regretted their decision of enrolling themselves into a hefty bachelor's in computer science or technology and stuff. And after a year or 6 months, they realized that it was not of their interest. So I think,
Yeah,
you know,
I think yeah, it's a really good point, because the benefit of the micro-credentialed route is you can just test stuff out. It's like, oh, I'd like to be a data analyst. I'll just go and do some entry-level micro-credentials to see if I enjoy it, to see
right.
if I have that aptitude, or you know, any subject that you're interested in. It's a really great way to test whether you're actually interested in that space, as you say, rather than jumping onto a large degree and then finding out after a year that it's not for you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and save a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you. That was extremely important explanation, Claire. So does this mean we can also combine the strengths of the two, which is a traditional degree and a micro credential?
Yeah, again, this going back to, it depends on the course, it depends on how they're used. So as mentioned, you may take specific micro credentials related to the skills gap that you have personally at this point, that you know, for a job now or a job you're targeting. Or you might aspire to have a master's degree and choose credentials that allow you to stack your individual micro credentials towards that goal, even if a master's degree isn't on your radar now. So it's still worth choosing micro credentials that can come together and stack to help you into that further study in future.
Thank you, Claire. And after obtaining all the micro-credentials, what are the various and effective strategies for showcasing those micro-credentials to our potential employers who we are looking forward to work with?
Mhm. I mentioned this, you know, slightly earlier, about the ability to showcase the new micro credentials on resumes and LinkedIn and so on. The value is that you don't need to wait for the passing of a full degree or a longer course to showcase your new skills. So you can add the past micro credentials to your resume straight away, giving you those immediate benefits when applying for jobs, and also posting your badges or certificates onto LinkedIn to celebrate your success. That's an excellent way for you to showcase the fact that you're proactive in your continued professional development to your potential employers, and it can then help you to stand out from an often crowded jobs market.
Yeah, absolutely. And use the right skill, the right words for you to get,
Mhm.
for your resume to get surfaced for the employers on the LinkedIn and professional sites.
Mhm.
Thank you, Claire. That was really, really helpful. I also know that, Advanza also offers micro credentials. And, would you like to please throw some light on the fields that these micro credentials are into?
Yeah, we have many standalone micro-credentials on the platform, you say, that you can just take individually and take those badges. And I'd encourage the audience today to have a look at the Edvanza exclusive courses on the app. In addition, we also have 3 quite unique micro-credential master's pathways that allow our users to learn at their own pace, stacking up 12 micro-credentials that can then be transferred into GISMA Business School in Germany. So it's a university in Germany. This means that users can then get accreditation for the learning that they're doing with Edvanza, meaning that they can start halfway through the first year of that master's course, effectively saving them time and money from that bigger master's course with GISMA. And they can also start flexibly with us as well, which is important for some people. There's the option to use the pathway purely as a skills development route as well. So gaining the 12 badges for professional development, which is very powerful as well for your resume, and as we said, sharing those on LinkedIn. So it's not necessarily just for those who are going to transfer into the full masters. Anyone can explore this pathway depending on where they are in their career and development at the moment. So the 3 pathways that we have there onto the master's degrees as a pathway to a master's in international business management, which is the first one. The second is a pathway into a master's in data science, artificial intelligence, and digital business. And the final one is a pathway into a master's in leadership for digital transformation. So 3, very key areas at the moment of skills gaps. that are out there. So we feel like they're very beneficial to our users.
Absolutely. I mean, you just mentioned some very, important fields and the subjects that are pretty much required to, fill the gap between the workforce today and the most wanted, skill set that we require in the technological world today. So, absolutely, data science, artificial intelligence, digital business. This is sounding quite interesting, and definitely we couldn't less focus on digital transformation that has been the core of evolution and technological evolution lately. So thank you very much, Claire, for helping us understand the value and the benefits that micro credentials bring to the table for young professionals such as our participants today. Well. I would really like to open up the floor for our participants and really encourage, them to ask direct questions from you and clarify any, doubts that they have in their mind or anything related to what we have spoken so far. So participants, I really appreciate if you could, type in your question in the chat board, and we would be more than happy to start answering those. Okay, I think we already got our first question, Claire. Hi, micro-credential looks interesting. I was wondering though, how do micro-credentials align with the changing demands of the job market? Also, what impact do they have on the future of work? I work in IT sector. This is a great question, Anurag, and over to you, Claire.
Yeah, I think that's really, I came out of the IT sector as well. So Anurag, so I think that's kind of what piqued my interest in micro-credentials in the first place, because as you know, in the tech sector, it's very difficult to keep up to date. Things are changing at such a fast pace. Micro-credentials are really powerful in the tech space because they're ways to consume small bits of learning where you can then prove and certify those additional upskilling things that you're doing. So that's a really good question. I think the really powerful way of staying ahead of the curve and proving that you're staying ahead of the curve because you've got the certificates or badges to prove that you've learned those things.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. We've got another question. Anurag, I hope this answers your question. Please type yes if it does. And we will move on to the next question, Claire. So one of our participants, Neha, asked, what are the eligibility criteria to get into this course and how do they transfer to the university? I think that's a very, very important question.
Yeah, very, very practical question. So thank you for that, Neha. The obviously Gisma Business School are a university in Germany, and they, as with any university, they will have prerequisites so that learners must have before they can transfer. So you can take the learning with Edvanza and not transfer, so that's an option. But if you want to transfer into this German university, Gisma, you have to have an undergraduate degree. Okay, so those, as I say, those without an undergraduate degree, but with experience can still take the micro-credentials with Edvanza for continued professional development, but they'll only be able to transfer if they have that undergraduate degree. Those wishing to pursue the full masters with Gisma would submit their application directly to the university after successfully completing at least one pair of Edvanza qualifying units with us. That is equivalent to 5 European credits. So that's the ECTS that we see there on the screen. So 2 micro-credentials with Edvanza mean you don't have to do a Gisma module. It effectively knocks that off the masters. You don't have to take that. So that's one of the aspects there. So you need to have a minimum of 2 Edvanza micro-credentials that you've passed. The second thing is, again, standard at any university entry, English proficiency test of IELTS. The final one there, obviously, as I've already mentioned, the fact that you have to have an undergraduate degree, that's in a relevant discipline, that's equivalent to 180 European credits. It's important to say that most standard degrees in the UK, in India, in Nigeria are equivalent to 180 ECTS, but we do have a calculator for you in the app when you enroll on the programme, so you can just check whether your undergraduate degree would allow you to transfer.
Thank you very much, Claire. Neha, I hope we have answered the question for you. If yes, kindly give us a thumbs up. We would like to move on to the next question, Claire. This is from Apurv. He asks, what are some examples of micro-credentials that are highly valued by employers, and how can job seekers obtain them?
Mm-hmm. This is kind of a how long's a piece of string question, because there's so many out there and it depends on the employer. But I think the things that are really useful are the things that it's difficult. You know, we mentioned the tech space, where you can show that you're continuously upskilling in any areas in tech or in management, in business, project management. All of those kind of areas are really, really beneficial to show that you have those standard skills that would be relevant to any environment. You know, project management is relevant to any environment. Data skills are relevant to any environment. So I think just looking back at that question to make sure that I've kind of answered it as it was asked. Yeah, those skills that would be relevant to all employers, I think are the highly valued ones. And there's lots there in those three pathways that we mentioned. So do have a look.
Thank you, Claire. Apurv, I hope we were able to respond to your question. Please give us a thumbs up. And the follow-up question is now from Tehman. Claire, do you have micro-credentials related to health and safety leading to masters?
Not an Edvanza at the moment. However, I'd recommend taking a look at FutureLearn, because they do have some in some health spaces. So yeah, I'd suggest having a look at those, Tehman.
Okay. I hope that suffices your question, Tehman. We have another question from Abhay. Hey, Claire, what role do employers play in recognizing and validating micro-credentials, and how can job seekers leverage them to gain a competitive edge in their job search? I think that's a great question. Thank you, Abhay.
I think that the recognizing and validating things. So when you will often work for employers who, as we mentioned before, are using their own micro-credentials to upskill their workforce. So they're effectively accrediting your learning through that process. In terms of the recognizing and validating, employers will recognize and validate any micro-credentials that are accredited by any university. Or recognised by any university. So as I said before, not all micro-credentials are created equal. Where you have that accreditation or accepted accreditation equivalence from a university, it's then easy for the employees to see, okay, this has gone through a quality checking process.
Thank you, Claire. And please give us a thumbs up. I do apologize to Sanjay and Navya. I missed the questions in the chat, but coming back to you, Sanjay. Claire, we have another question. How do micro-credentials align with broader trends in learning lifestyle, and how can individuals stay up to date with the latest developments in their field through micro-credentialing?
That's a really good question. I think it's the pace of change in learning is you know, fascinating for me. I've been in higher education for over 20 years. I think micro-credentials are the new thing, because people understand, okay, people need the flexibility now. People need to be working to earn money, and micro-credentials effectively give them that flexibility to allow them to develop whilst, you know, working, earning. I think that the trends in the learning lifestyle, that's where it's going. It's moving more away from traditional to more flexible. And I don't think the traditional will disappear, because I do think the traditional is really important and valuable, depending on where you are in your career. But I think the role of micro-credentials and similar trends in learning lifestyle, as you put it, Sanjay, is changing because of the demands. People want to learn, they want to upskill, they want to be able to progress in their career without having to jump into a big offer like a full master's immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Claire. And sorry. We have one more question from Navya. I was really interested in knowing how can individuals identify and select high quality micro-credential programs and what resources are available to help them make informed choices. I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Again, it comes back to what we mentioned before about accredited micro-credentials. So often you hear them called many different things, as I said earlier, and often they're called different things when they're not accredited. So it's like, okay, we're offering a short course, but it's not accredited. So I think I can give my input in terms of how I know micro-credentials are viewed by universities. They go through rigorous quality processes. For example, with our link with GISMA, they checked our content, they checked our learning outcomes to make sure that they mapped to their full degrees. So I think a good way to check that you're getting quality micro-credentials is to look for those that are accredited in some way.
Yeah, I think we covered this in our conversation as well, pretty much, Claire, that recognition is absolutely important for you to take your little step towards your growth and career advancement. Thank you, Claire. We have another question from Neha. What is the timeline for applying and enrolling in GISMA's micro-credentials, and how long does it take to complete the process with Edvanza?
Okay, so I think taking that from the point of view of applying and enrolling for Edvanza and what that process looks like, it's again coming back to the flexibility, completely down to the individual. So after completing a set of qualifying units, which as we said was a minimum of 1 per set of units, which is equivalent to 1 GISMA module, or up to 12 Edvanza units courses that are equivalent to 6 of the modules in the GISMA Masters. Once you've done that, you can then at any point submit your APL, so accreditation of prior learning application, directly to GISMA. So we have a process for doing this on the Edvanza app. And because the learning is completely flexible, there is no timeline for application. You do it as long or as soon as you want to complete these micro-credentials. So there's complete flexibility there. So we can't give standard timelines for how long people are going to take to complete a course, for example, because we're very aware of how people consume the courses. So for example, we could have somebody in the audience today who actually has quite a lot of experience in project management, but they don't have any accreditation. So what they want to do is just come in and do the assessments on the project management courses that we have there, rather than go through all the learning. They might skim through it rather than engage with it deeply, for example, because they know they've got that experience, and then they can get the badge just through doing that assessment. So that's where it's difficult to give a timeline for completing one particular course with Edvanza, because it depends on so many things like your prior experience, how many hours a week you have spare to dedicate to your learning or to writing of your assessment, how soon after you've submitted one assessment can you then afford to pay for the next assessment. There's lots of different factors that will shorten or lengthen how quickly you can finish these courses.
Absolutely. Please give us a thumbs up if you've got the answers to your question. We've got 2 more questions, Claire. This is from Shrishti. I have how can individuals who have obtained micro-credentials effectively communicate their value to potential employees during the job application process?
Yeah, I think get it on your resume straight away. As soon as you gain one of these micro-credentials, get it on there. It's, it is a qualification that you can showcase. You've done that learning. So absolutely, Shrishti, get it on your resume or your CV. Talk about it in interviews. about the skills that you've learned and how you'd like to apply them, or how you can see yourself applying them in the job that you're applying for. And so I think that's really important to sing about these individual micro credentials that you've got, and of course, as well, as we say, showcasing them on your LinkedIn profiles and so on. And if you haven't got a LinkedIn profile, you need to get one, because this is where lots of employers are searching for specific skills. And I think that's another key thing that I don't think we've mentioned, Aanchal, about the value of micro credentials, and because you're showing specific skills that you're developing, and employers will often look at LinkedIn for specific skills, not necessarily qualifications. So showcasing those skills in those spaces is quite important.
Absolutely. And I think very, very important for us, just wanted to add to what Claire said, Shrishti, that you can use the right keywords in your resume for your resume to be surfaced to the right employers. And if you want to take more knowledge into this and gain more expertise on how to really go about it, I would recommend you checking out our playbook called Interview Ninja right on Edvanza.com. That will give you a very, very good understanding of how you can, place yourself in the among the right employers on LinkedIn. All right. Another question, Claire. This is from Tush. How can individuals incorporate micro-credentials into their existing education and career goals? And what steps can they take to ensure they're building a well-rounded skill set?
Yeah, as I said earlier, you can use microcredentials alongside traditional routes as well, and certainly lots of universities are automatically embedding that now as well. So for example, you might be doing a management degree, but you might be offered microcredentials in some certain tech spaces, for example, like data and so on. So there is a way to upskill yourself in numerous different areas, even if you're still taking a traditional route. Where you feel like you may have some specific skills gaps that maybe your degree or your master's degree is not specifically targeting. So for example, if you're looking at some job specifications and you're thinking, okay, I don't have those project management skills or those data skills or wherever it might be, it's a great way to enhance your offer alongside any traditional qualifications you've taken or are taking.
Thank you, Claire. We have one more question from Jivraj Kohli. He's a little confused and hoping he could get a clarification. How do micro-credentials differ from traditional academic degrees, and what unique benefits do they offer in terms of career advancement? Thank you, Jivraj.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think the terms micro-credentials and so on can create a bit of, be a bit confusing as well. So it's kind of why we're running this webinar today too. So it's absolutely fine, Jirav. I think the first bit of your question there, how do they differ from traditional academic degrees? It's going back to the flexibility. So you can still work towards degrees and masters like the examples we have at Edvanza, if that's something you want to do. But it's about the flexibility. It's about the flexibility in when you study, what you study. So targeting specific areas, skill sets that you need for jobs you have now or are targeting in future. And I think that's the unique benefits at the end. The last bit of your question there is that they're tailored. You can tailor your learning experience to you, whereas normal traditional degrees tend to be, these are all the subjects you're going to cover. And there's little choice. You tend to get some choice maybe later on in your degree if you can specialise in a particular area. But for me, that is the uniqueness, is your ability to tailor what you learn to where you want to go in your career development.
Absolutely. Thank you, Claire. And I hope this helps. Jivraj, please give us a thumbs up. I'm so sorry, Mila, I missed your question before, but Mila is asking does she need to be in Germany to take this university program?
No, so all of these are online degrees. So they are in-person degrees and they have online versions. So you absolutely could go to Germany with this if you wanted to. but you don't have to. So you can transfer onto the full masters online. So still stay at home, but continue with the study online. But if going to Germany is something you'd like to do, you can apply through that route as well. But you'd have to do the standard other international student application processes there as well.
Thank you, Claire. Well, we still have some more time left into this conversation. We're more than happy to listen more from you. Any comments, any feedback, and any more questions, please feel free.
It's great that there's lots of interest, Aanchal, lots of questions.
Yes.
So thank you, everybody.
Wow, you just got a compliment as well. Thank you, Mila. If you really appreciated the webinar, do fill the survey, which Anmol is going to post at the end of it. Teman okay, can you share a list of your offered micro courses? Absolutely, Teman, we can do that. I will take this as a personal request from you and try to and send you a list of the courses that we have. And
I think we're also going to send everybody the brochures for the 3 routes that we have with it, and that contains on there, Teman, the micro credentials within each of these 3 that Anmol has helpfully put on the screen for us here. So as we say, each of these pathways has 12 micro credentials, which you can take individually or as pathways. So we'll send you the brochures for all 3 of those by email afterwards. We'll send those to everyone so they have them, and you can just explore which ones you're interested in. And as we say, you can take those individually, as pairs. You can take the whole thing. It's up to you. It has that complete flexibility.
Thank you, Claire. What resources or tools are available to get career job placement support? This is again from Neha. Thank you, Neha. I can take this question for you, if that's okay, Claire.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
All right. So, everybody, Edvanza gives you a full coverage for your career progressions because we are a career advancement partner for you, right from AI-generated personalized courses to our curated playbooks designed specifically for young professionals such as you. And those playbooks, are Interview Ninja, Task Mastery for your support. We also support you with a personalized one-on-one career advisory session with our skilled advisors. So I truly encourage you to see for yourself by booking your session today or maybe right after this webinar.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say as well that if you enroll on one of these programs, you do get a monthly support session as well, where we can, support with the learning that's there, but also support in thinking about what you might study next to help with your career. So that career advisory is really, really beneficial part of this process as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Claire. We've got one more question from Navya. How do microcredentials fit into larger trends in the future of work and the changing nature of careers, and what implications do they have for individuals, employers, and society as a whole?
Mm-hmm. Oof, that is a big question. I think I'd like to use ChatGPT as an example. The impact that's had over the last few months, and the change, the pace of change that's there in these tech spaces is incredible. So I think it's really important for employers so they can continuously upskill their employees in these new developing areas. And as I say, lots of employers are using these kind of short micro-credential courses to upskill their workforce. The nature of careers is an interesting one. It does change the nature of careers because there's a lot more flexibility these days. So we might get to a point in our career and think, actually, I'm not enjoying being in HR, for example. What I'm enjoying in my space now is working with the data. What I'd like to do is shift my career into a data analyst role, wherever that might be. And you can utilize micro-credentials to shift from one career into another. So I think there's a lot more flexibility these days to shift from one space into another when you're not completely satisfied where you are. I think it was less easy in the past than it is now. It's that's how I feel like it's changing the nature of careers, is again back to flexibility. It's allowing people to upskill themselves in different spaces and make a shift into a different job.
Yeah, and the way, you know, Claire, you covered this while we were talking about the value proposition that employees and employers get from micro credentials. And I think that's the beauty of it, Navya. I would like to just add to what Claire just mentioned, that you don't really have to stick to the traditional path. Let's say you're just not happy with what you're doing. There is such a sweet spot from where you can absolutely move from being a project manager to a data scientist. And just, you know, one of my very good colleagues from past organization, Claire, he was a customer success manager with me. I hired him in my team, and today he's actually heading their data science team. And I was like, what a great shift in 3 years. So Navya, that's the beauty of it. And the beauty is that employers are absolutely recognizing that talent change and the upskilling that you're bringing to the table for the employers.
I think that the last bit of Navya's question there of society as a whole, I mean, that's a big question, isn't it?
Yes.
One of the reasons I'm quite passionate about microcredentials is the shift it's giving is it allows anybody to learn. In the past, there's been lots of barriers with large degrees and so on being quite costly, whereas these kind of career development pathways and microcredentials can be picked up by anyone to upskill themselves. So I think it's empowering more people, this shift to different ways of learnings, which is, I think, you know, if we talk about society as a whole, it's just opening up the opportunities.
Absolutely. And we're becoming more accepting of every, you know, domain and various fields for that matter. So yes, it has it's opened up for everybody, whosoever wants to learn anything and everything under the sun.
There's a definite shift, you know, that I've seen from employers in terms of what they're looking at. There's a lot more focus on skills now rather than qualifications. Yes, they want qualifications for some spaces, as I say, and depending on how advanced you go into some spaces, they will expect you to do further qualifications. But yeah, that's the shift, is they're focusing on the skills. They want people who can do the job.
Absolutely. Thank you, Navya. That was a very, very interesting question from the lot. Well, another question, Claire. This is from Ansh. What are some potential downsides or limitations to pursuing micro-credentials, and how can individuals ensure they're making a wise investment of their time and resources? Great one, Ansh.
It's a really good question. I think again, going back to a point I made earlier, is making sure you're choosing micro-credentials that serve your future goals. So it can be very easy when you're on platforms to get excited about a specific topic and think, oh, I'd really like to learn that. But really what you should do is have your career development in mind. Where do I want to go? What could help me to get there? And also the micro-credentials that I'm taking, can I put them together with other micro-credentials in future and get more development, a bigger qualification, for example. So I think downsides are you might end up with a standalone qualification that doesn't actually link to anything else. But you can just be clever about how you're choosing the learning that you're going for with micro-credentials to make sure that it is a wise investment of your time and resource.
Absolutely. And just to add to what Claire mentioned, if you're even, you know, have slightest of doubts about your goal or even how to set up your goal, you must experience our one-on-one session with our career advisors, which will help you set up your short-term and a long-term goal. And we have a very well curated playbook for this on edvanza.com. So please do check it out and feel free to book your session with us. Great.
Thank you for all the nice comments from everybody.
I think this is such an interesting conversation. I mean, a lot of interest generating in our young professionals to go for micro credentials. I hope Claire and we were able to help you and, support you in a very bit from our side to make sure that you are closer towards your goals of taking micro-credentials seriously for your career advancement. Well, if we don't have any more questions, then I think we can do a wrap, Claire.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
All right. I couldn't say less, but we truly value your continued participation and, being one of our Advanza users. And as I said, if we could not address any question or doubts, don't hesitate to write to us at support@advanza.com. And as a token of appreciation and your participation today, we would really like to give away 50% off on 5 trending Advanza courses for your smart upskilling. Anmol did ping those courses on the chat. Please do check it out. And all our participants will receive the voucher code in their mailbox post the webinar. And don't forget to check out your email, please. Well, I truly again request you to please follow us on our social media handles and stay tuned for more webinars and workshops. This is Team Advanza signing off. Have a wonderful evening, you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you once again, Claire, for your such an interesting session today.
No worries, I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Claire. Bye, everyone.